We need more psychology. We need more understanding of human nature, because the only real danger that exists is man himself.
There's a truth so uncomfortable, so raw, that most people would rather look away. A truth whispered by Carl Jung, a man who spent his life mapping the human soul. He said, "We are the origin of all coming evil." Let that sink in. Not fate, not politics, not some distant force. Us, you and me. Ordinary people, good people. And that is exactly why it's so terrifying. This isn't just philosophy. This isn't just psychology. This is a confrontation with the deepest part of yourself. The part that wears a smile in public but in silence knows exactly what it's capable of. This is not a history lesson. This is not self-help. This is a mirror. And what you see in it might change everything. When we think of evil, we think of villains, tyrants, criminals, monsters. But Jung challenged that idea. He said, evil doesn't begin with monsters. It begins with people who believe they could never become one. The kind parent, the obedient citizen, the man who says, "I was just doing my job." Evil enters the world quietly, through apathy, through silence, through blind obedience. And the most dangerous people are the ones convinced of their own innocence. Because the person who knows their capacity for destruction is more careful with their choices than the one who believes they're incapable of harm. The devil doesn't knock on the door in horns. He arrives in comfort, in groupthink, in small compromises you make every day, until you're no longer sure where your conscience went. Jung introduced a concept that most people try to ignore: the shadow. The shadow is the part of you that you reject, the aggression you suppress, the envy you deny, the lust, the hate, the hunger for control you pretend isn't there. You don't eliminate these traits by ignoring them. You empower them. The more you repress your darkness, the more it festers. And the more it festers, the more it leaks into your relationships, your choices, your worldview. It's the angry outburst you regret, the destructive pattern you repeat, the hatred you see in others but never yourself. Everyone has a shadow. The question is, are you aware of it, or is it using you? And here's the tragedy. The people most controlled by their shadow are usually the ones who believe they're the most righteous. We like to believe morality is a trait, something you either have or don't. But Jung reminds us, morality is not a static identity. It is a practice. You are not born good. You are born capable of kindness and cruelty, honesty and deceit, love and destruction. The self is not a fixed sculpture. It is a flame, and that flame can either illuminate or consume. Your goodness is not guaranteed. It must be guarded, not by fear, but by awareness. It takes courage to admit what you are capable of. It takes maturity to hold your own violence in your hands and say, "I won't let this dictate who I become." But that's the work. That's what separates growth from delusion. And that's why Jung's warning is not pessimistic. It's liberating. Because once you realize you are the source of the danger, you also realize you are the solution. We imagine evil wearing masks, wielding weapons, broadcasting threats. But in the real world, evil wears a badge. It wears a suit. It goes to family dinners. It tells itself stories to justify its silence. It doesn't look like hatred. It looks like comfort, like rules, like systems that nobody questions, because questioning is uncomfortable. Jung understood something society still struggles with, that the most catastrophic evil is not committed by madmen, but by functionaries, by those who never stopped to ask, is this right? Is this human? Is this mine? It's easy to say, I would never do that. Much harder to ask, what conditions would make me believe that was okay? We build our lives to avoid that question, and that's exactly why we should ask it. Carl Jung didn't tell us to fear the shadow. He told us to meet it. Why? Because the shadow is not just the source of destruction, it's also the source of power, strength, creativity, and truth. What you repress controls you. What you integrate strengthens you. When you face your envy, you learn where your insecurities lie. When you face your anger, you discover what you truly care about. When you face your selfishness, you understand your boundaries and your responsibility. You cannot become whole without your shadow. It's not the enemy. It's the part of you begging to be seen, understood, and mastered. But be warned, this journey doesn't flatter your ego. It will humble you. It will hurt you. But it will also free you. We often say, history repeats itself, but history doesn't repeat. People do. We inherit not just culture, but wounds, not just wisdom, but denial. Jung's concept of the collective unconscious suggests we carry the memory of the human experience within us. That's why we keep creating myths, symbols, stories, across time, across civilizations. But it's also why we keep repeating the same patterns: division, violence, projection. We believe our generation is different, more enlightened, more moral. But the same archetypes are at work, the same shadows. The collective shadow emerges when an entire society refuses to look inward, when fear is projected onto outsiders, when blame becomes easier than responsibility. The Holocaust, genocides, cultural purges. These were not the work of beasts, they were the work of people, of belief systems, of unquestioned ideologies. Jung's warning is timeless. We are the origin of all coming evil, because we are the only species that can choose, but often refuses to look in the mirror before pointing a finger. So what now? Do we live in fear of ourselves? No. We live in awareness. That's what Jung wanted. Not guilt, not shame, but consciousness. Because when you realize the danger lives in you, so does the solution. To recognize your shadow is to disarm it, to take back control, to step out of unconscious repetition and into conscious creation. It's not easy, but it's the most honest path you can walk. Jung once said, "No tree, it is said, can grow to heaven unless its roots reach down to hell." You cannot reach your highest self without confronting your lowest. You cannot become whole by pretending half of you doesn't exist. So stop running. Turn and face the shadow. Because only the person who has met their darkness can truly choose the light. There's one more thing you should know, perhaps the hardest truth of all. You will never fully defeat your darkness. There is no finish line, no moment when you are finally free of all shadow, all conflict, all contradiction. That's not the goal. The goal is not perfection. The goal is integration. To live your life as a conscious participant in your own story. To make choices, not react blindly. To carry your darkness not as a curse, but as a source of humility. Because those who know their capacity for harm are gentler with others. They judge less. They listen more. They no longer walk through the world with a sword, but with awareness. This is not the easy path. Most people will avoid it. They will distract themselves, numb themselves, blame others, and call it strength. But you who have listened this far, you've already taken the first step. You've stopped pretending, and that matters. Because once the mirror has been turned toward you, you can never truly go back to sleep. Yes, the world is filled with problems. Yes, there are systems, histories, traumas that shape our lives. But Jung's message remains: you are not powerless, because the most powerful revolution is the one that begins within. It's the decision to stop being afraid of what lives inside you. It's the decision to stop asking, "What can I change out there?" and instead ask, "What must I confront in here?" You cannot save the world if you cannot first face yourself. But if you do, you might just find that the world begins to change, one soul at a time. And it starts with yours. You are not just capable of good, you are capable of everything. And that's what makes your choices powerful. You are the origin of love, of hope, of chaos, of evil, and of transformation. The world doesn't need more perfect people. It needs conscious ones. Thank you for watching. If this message stirred something in you, don't just scroll away. Sit with it, wrestle with it, talk about it, write about it. Because awareness, once sparked, is a flame. And if you nurture it, it can burn away generations of unconscious pain. So ask yourself, not someday, but now, what darkness am I denying? What evil am I capable of? And what will I choose to do with that truth? Because the future isn't out there waiting. You are the origin. What comes next starts with you.